And welcome to the studio stream of Las Plumas de Simur. My name is Plumas and I'm going to be your host for the afternoon. My god, I don't know what time is it anymore. The time skip, not the time skip, how do you say that? The light saving time has completely twisted my brain. It was already twisted enough, but now I just don't know what time is it anymore because there's so much light coming in from the window. I actually had to put down the blinds slightly so I wouldn't look completely burnt on screen, because you know your girl is pale and there's nothing wrong about it. I'm just a really pale person. With this with this hit of the light, I looked transparent. It was not white, it was beyond white. I don't know if there's something whiter than white, but definitely it was that. Hi Nazaret, how are you? Go Pelicanate, of course you're here. We are giving a cheers with my magical mug, because this is our how do you call these things? Thermoreactive mug. It's a cup that just reacts to high temperature. When you pour the hot drink, the mask of the Phantom of the Opera will show. And actually, this is from the show, the Phantom of the Opera, when I was living in London, because yes, I've lived in multiple places, so London is one of them. I went to the opera and I got it because I'm a big fan of the Phantom of the Opera and I really enjoyed it. And I remember, this quick story aside, I remember when I went to the session I did, there was a group of this tiny group of teenagers, and clearly they had not been advertised properly what they were going to see, or either someone had tricked them, or maybe they were very poorly informed. Because I remember, you know, I don't know if you've seen the play The Phantom of the Opera, but it's an opera, so they sing most of the time. And one of them that probably, I don't know, maybe they saw the movie at some point, they've seen the film, and they remembered not so much singing. I remember one turning to their adult companion, teacher, tutor, parent, I don't know, to say, May, they should sing a lot in this play. And it's like, Azizam, you came to a play called The Phantom of the Opera. What were you expecting? I thought it was very sweet. I don't know if it's only me, but I thought it was super sweet. And yeah, do you like Phantom of the Opera? Have you seen it, watched it, listened to it? I have to admit I really like it, and I'm fond of this mug. It is very old, okay? This is very, very old mug, but I really like it. Oh, yeah. Anyways, how's this? Oh, how does it start, the song? In sleep he sang to me. Yeah. In sleep he sang to me. In dreams he came. A voice that calls for me and speaks my name. Oh. Chef's kiss. Don't blame the daylight for the twisted mind. I mean, I know you're actually right. I shouldn't put the blame of my already stupidity on the daylight saving. I imagine Plumas like, Scrooge, why are they singing the time? No, it was not me. I knew what I was going for. It was genuinely them. It was this teenagers. I thought they were sweet. I thought it was cute. I don't know. Like, May, they do sing a lot. I was thinking, yes, sure they do. Sure they do. I'm gonna turn down the light a little bit because I need a new light setting. I've said this like multiple times now, like multiple, repeatedly, and I do not get a new light setting. One day, Shoyad, or Midwara, I don't know when, but one day perhaps. So, what we are doing today is resuming the reading of the Book of Kings and Bachar. Let me tell you, I was looking forward to this stream. I was looking forward to just sit, have my cuppa with me, and just relax and read to you. Because I think have a feeling lately that I say this in every single Book of Kings stream, but I do love these ones. They're my favorite. They're my favorite, and I love reading out loud. I think inside me lives a very frustrating storyteller, and I just like it. And I thought, oh, it's going to be a relaxed sesh, you know, just reading to my bacha and stuff, tranquility, enjoyment. No, but why? Because we're reading the Book of Kings. There's no minute to relax. How? In which ways? I wonder. Because the part where actually we're starting a very nice part now, because there's a lot of the supernatural coming into play. But yeah, Ferdosi just said, no, Ferdosi just pulled off a singing moment, and he burst he burst into song, no way, from Six, the musical. Very musical themed this live stream. Not complaining, just highlighting that. But yeah, I cannot wait for new scenes and new bits of Ferdosi to just squeeze my heart and just, you know, and make me suffer, because was his expertise. Just really makes me suffer. I know, because I remember vaguely what we are going into now, because should I remind you, this is 60,000 verses long. I've read this multiple times, but of course, because of my work, I focus on some parts more than in others. And I know vaguely what's happening here, but I do not remember it as well as I remembered, for example, Zahok's story or Simurg's story. And now what we are starting is the arc of Kaikavus. Kaikavus is I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm going to try to keep it cool. Kaikavus is a very important character in the Shāh-nāmeh, very important. And during his reign and his arc, there's a lot of important characters as well coming into play, and we get to know a bit more about how the Shāh-nāmeh imagined the world. And I'm saying this because this arc starts with a war. Surprise! And but it's not a war against another human army. It is a war against the supernatural, which are the demons, the Divs at the northern province in Mazandaran. Now, I said demons, but I mean Div. And what is a Div? You've been long enough with me. You're familiar with the jinn already. These are the Persian equivalent. They're not. Technically, at this point, when the Shāh-nāmeh was written, they were assimilated into the same being, although the Div come from a different background than the Jinn. And they're not exactly the same thing, although they became the same thing. The characteristics of the Div were assimilated into the Jinn, and they were merged. They are the same creature, and over time, eventually, Div was just the Persian way of saying jinn. It's not wrong to call them equals. It's not wrong calling them jinn. Jinn is Arabic, Div is Persian, so it's not that different at this point on the Islam, although I wanted you to know that they do not come from the same place. I don't know you would be interested in me talking about the Div specifically, because I do love the jinn, of course, but I do love the Div as well. And this Al-Ghaib situation is just so my jam. So all of that was just a very complicated way for me to say that I do not remember very well the events that happen, the order in which they happen, or I remember there's a lot of conversations in this part, okay? A lot of characters talk to each other and they send letters to each other because they're in different parts of Iran. So we shall discover it together. As I'm pretty sure that as we read and as we advance, I'm going to remember. And that's good. All right, the Kaikavus's reign is a... You know how Ferdosi writes, don't you? You've been here long enough with me. Do you know how the drill is, right? So expect classical Ferdosi things to happen, and and everyone shall be all right. Okay, so let's start with the reading, shall we? We are starting the reign of Kaikavus. If a noble tree grows tall and is then damaged in some way, its leaves wither, its roots weaken, and its summit begins to droop. And if it snaps, it must give way to a new shoot that, when spring comes, will bud and blossom like a shining lamp. Lump, not lump, lamp. If a sickly branch grows from a good root, you should not curse the root for this. In the same way, when a father cedes his place to his son and acquaints him with the secrets of life. Hello? Hello, Bertus. I remember you mentioned something from the Iranian magic video. Yes. Yes. I mean, yes. That is so well brought up. Yes, entirely correct. That we are going to see a lot of double standards with magic in this reign, because these characters, you're going to see that when the Deeps perform magic, that's wrong. However, when the kings, the Iranian kings, all the Iranian protagonists, the ones performing magic, not so wrong anymore. So it's like, double standards. I see that. Okay, I accept it. What was he saying? Yeah, if in the same way, when a father cedes his place to his son and acquaints him with the secrets of life, if the son then brings shame on his father's name and glory, then call him a stranger, not a son. If he slights his father's example, he deserves to suffer at the hands of fate. This is the way of the ancient world, and you cannot tell what will grow from a given root. So, this paragraph basically explains very well what the kingship of Kaikavus is going to be. And, basically Ferdos is telling you that if there's a son that completely undoes his father and betrays the ancient customs and, generally speaking, does not perform as expected, you should not blame the father for it. Rather, it's the son's own fault. The same way you would not blame a tree for naturally withering. And what is the metaphor? Is it a complicated one? I don't. Yeah, like if the root is good on a tree, but then a branch comes out sick, you would not blame the whole tree for it. It's not the root's fault. You can imagine what kind of... Okay. When Kavus took his father's place, all the world was his slave. He saw that he owned treasures of all kinds, that the earth was his to command. The throne was his, the royal crown and earrings were his, the golden crown set with emeralds and Arab horses with streaming manes. Everything was his, and he considered no one in the world to be his equal. We do not like... We prefer humble people, Kavus. Hi, just came to say hello. I'm working as usual. I'll listen to you later. Thank you, Zayga. Oh, khayli mabnoon. So yeah, we don't like proud people. We don't like... Can you give me synonyms of proud? Boastful? People that show off? Pretentious? Cocky. Minus 10 points of far. Definitely minus 10 points of far. Overconfident. Definitely overconfident. Yeah. If you know something, not about the Shāh-nāmeh, but about epic literature in general, is that those kinds of characters, those overconfident, those boastful, proud characters, they don't go far, and they don't live happily ever after. So yeah, Kaikavus sits on the throne and thinks, wow, there's nobody that can match me. Yeah, another synonym is Gilgameshik. Plus 10 points up far for nosotros. The world is my equal. There's no one in this world that's my equal, sorry. One day he was in a pleasure garden. What do they mean by that? I actually don't know. A pleasure garden. I'm just guessing he was very well accompanied. Seated on a golden throne with crystal feet, drinking wine with the Persian chieftains and talking of this and that. A musician who was... All right, this is something the Shāh-nāmeh does, okay? A musician who was in reality a div, so the supernatural, came asking for audience with the king. He said, "I'm renowned in Mazanderan for my sweet voice. If I am worthy to appear before the king, let me approach his throne." Typical jinn behavior. The chamberlain went behind the curtain and said to the king, "There is a musician at the gate with a lute. He sings very sweetly." Kavuz gave orders to admit him, and they sat him down with his instrument. All right, so you've heard me said that the king was behind a curtain. This is because at this moment, kings used to veil themselves. They sat behind a set of curtains, and this practice has been in Iran for quite a while now. We have evidence of this happening, definitely with the Sasanians. We do believe the Parthians and Achaemenids did so too. It is a way of delimiting the space for the king. And what do I mean by delimiting the space? You see, this is not an equal society, and of course, the king is not as anyone else, is special. He's been touched by the divinity, he's been chosen by God, Ahura Mazda in this case. Thus, it should be indicated that he does not belong to this realm, quote unquote. And the way of doing that is by establishing a perimeter around him, and with the architecture and with some elements, you convert that space into sacred ground, and a ground that only the king can set foot on. We've seen this being done with torches, with incensaries. We've seen this done with curtains. It's just a way of separating the king from the rest of the mortals, and for the people to remember and to highlight the almost supernatural presence of the king. Equality, this does not exist in this time. Okay, in this time frame, this just does not. And thinking that there is a mistake, is contemplating the past with the eyes of the present, and we should not do that. We should not judge either. It's just what it was. It's just what it was. The king was considered to be different, not only in Iran, in like the world entirely. And so the jinn, div, hello Serapis! The div sits and began to sing. I'm not going to sing, I'm going to read, but just imagine, a lute, like a nice lute playing, and a beautiful voice, whatever voice you fancy the most. My country is Mazanderan. May she abide forever in prosperity. Her gardens bloom with roses all year long, wild hyacinths and myriad tulips throng her mountain slopes. Her climate is sweet and clear, not hot, not cold, but springtime all the year. Her perfumed air revives the soul. It seems rose water rushes in her mountain streams. In every month, wild tulips can be seen, dotting the hillsides and the meadows green. Her serving girls are lovely to behold, and there's good hunting there, and wealth, and gold. You see what the jinn is doing, right? Do you see, like, he's camelando. I don't know how to say camelar in English. Nosotros, would you look that one up for me? How do you say camelar? It's not flirt. It's like seduce with words. Camelar is such a Spanish thing. Like, I don't... How do we say camelar? Like, yeah, flirting, seducing, charming. Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly charm. It could work, yeah, definitely. But the jinn, the div, I'm gonna use jinn and div indistinctively. I'm really sorry. The div is camelando the king, yeah. Well, I'm just very curious about this one. Charm could work. Adulate, yeah, not really, because it's not that the div is enhancing the king's aspect or personality or traits. No, it's like he's just given Leah droplets of like seductive words in order for Kai Kavuz to do what the div wants to do. Cajole. What? I need a dictionary now. I don't know. Charming is too polite. Yeah, I mean, persuading. I like persuading, Camilar. Sweet talking, winning over, seducing. I just realized that I have been following your channel for a year now. Aziza! Oh, that's your first anniversary! Yay! Persuade someone to do something by sustained quacks in a flattery. So cajoling, yeah, we could say that. Sweet talking, winning over, I like that. Cheers to Serapis and his first anniversary. By the way, in like around 10 days, it's my own second Twitch anniversary. That is, yeah, it's like coaxing. It's like, yeah. Back to the reading. While Kavuz was listening to this song, he conceived the idea of conquering Mazandaran with his army. Did that occur to you alone, Kai Kavuz? Did you have that idea? Just you? He said to his warriors, "We have spent our time feasting, and while a brave man idles his time away, weak enemies grow strong. My throne is greater than that of Jamshid or Zahog or Kaikobad." Whoa! I sure did not remember this. Whoa, Azizam. Oh my god. You sure are pretentious, boy. My throne is greater than that of Jamshid or Zahog or Kaikobad, who was his father, and my justice is greater than theirs. I should be greater than them in my accomplishments as well. A king should be ambitious to conquer the world. Wow, I sure did not remember this. When the nobles heard what he had to say, none of them approved. They frowned, and their faces turned sallow. None of them had any desire to make war on Dives. No one said anything openly, but they sighed in silence. They said, "We are your slaves and tread the earth at your command." But later they sat together and discussed the king's word. What kind of calamity is this? If what the king said in his cub isn't forgotten, we and Iran are facing a disaster. There will be no country, water, or land left to us. Even Jamshid, with his crown and his seal ring, by which he had birds and djinn and angels under his command, never thought of fighting against the Div of Mazandaran. And Fereydun, who had such knowledge and was skilled in magic, never considered this possibility. Like, you know, they're discussing because they cannot believe that the king really suggested that. It's just, of course, they said they will obey his words and his commands because after all, they are his subjects. But they do not agree with that. Absolutely not. And they're comparing Kavus's point of view to all the greater kings and Kavus in the past, like Jamshid and Fereydun, who, having the power of wielding magic, never dared to enter Mazandaran. Hello, Mr. Tiny Corn Dog. How are you? We are reading the Book of Kings. Do you want to sit and listen to it? Then they also said, Tus, one of the people there said, "Brave lords, experienced in battle. There is only one solution, and it should not be hard to achieve what we desire. We must send a messenger to Zol, saying, 'Come immediately. If your head is smeared with mud, do not stop to wash it clean.' He should be able to give the king wise advice, to tell him that it is Ahriman who has put this idea in his mind, and that one should never open doors behind which demons wait." I mean, if you ask me, I don't really think it's that smart marching into war against Thieves, because, you know, they own the supernatural and Mazandaran is their supernatural dwelling. So just think this through for 2 minutes, Caboose. And what the Kingsmen are, I think if I follow, what the Kingsmen are resolving is calling Zol. Their oil. It doesn't sound like a great. I know. It's not. it's not a great idea. But yeah, they want Zal to stop the king, or at least try. And it might be that Zal can make him change his mind. If he cannot, then our fortunes, good and bad, are at end. And after they had discussed the matter at length, they dispatched a courier. He made good speed, and when he reached Zal, he passed on his message. The nobles sent greetings to Zal, the son of Sam, the one that went to find tobacco and never came back. A strange event has happened, and our minds are unable to deal with it. If you are not prepared to help us, no one here will be left alive, and our land will disappear. Ahriman, which if you do not remember or don't know who Ahriman is, Ahriman in Zoroastrianism is a counterpart of Ahura Mazda. Originally, they were order and chaos, but as the Zoroastrian religion was influenced by the monotheistic cults and as the religion itself evolved, Ahriman and Ahura Mazda became opposites. We had, the good deity, the Lord of Wisdom, which is Ahura Mazda, and then we have the Lord of Chaos and Darkness, which is Ahriman. So this is the person they are addressing. The person, the deity, the person, the mate, the pal. Ahriman has led our king astray. He has no intention of leaving as our ancestors did. He wastes the wealth he took no pains to accumulate, and he intends to attack Mazandaran. If you pause even long enough to scratch your head, the king will have left and thrown to the winds all the trouble you took in Qaikowad's service. I don't know how I read that this way. Service. Evil thoughts have twisted the king's soul, so that everything that you and your lion cub Rostam have done seems so much wind to him. Zal was deeply troubled to hear that the leaves of the royal tree had turned yellow in this way. You see, Kavuz is a complicated man, and he's going to complicate everyone else's life. By the way, thank you, Nasoy Ross, for such a good job you're doing with the bots. Judges might be there for a reason. Zal said, Kavuz is an arrogant man who has not experienced the heat and cold of this world. He is very young, that's for certain. A king should be someone over whose head the sun and moon have passed for many years. He thinks nobles and commoners alike tremble before his sword, and it will be no surprise if he pays no attention to my advice. It would hurt me if he doesn't listen to me. But if I make light of this in my heart and forget my loyalty to the king, neither God, nor the king, nor Iran's heroes will approve of me. I will go to him and give him what advice I can. It will be the best for him if he accepts it. But if he insists on what he has decided, the roads are open and Rostam will be there with the army. So see, Zal right now is between a rock and a hard place, because on the one hand, he does know Kavuz, and he knows because he's young, his juvenile attitude is a very big impediment for him to think straight, and somehow Zal knows that his advice is gonna just fall on unfertile grounds, so to say. On the other hand, if he just turned his back on the king, he could not be forgiven, because he's still a subject of the King of Kings, and he's sworn loyalty to Kavuz's father, and therefore to Kavuz. So he cannot just ignore the situation. Even if he resolves that, he ends his speech and his letter saying, well, even if I go and this kid does not listen to me, I still will offer my own son to march into battle, because I am a subject to the king. And if the king wants to flipping invade Mazandaran, well, we shall accompany him. I love Zal. Zal spent the long night deep in thought, and when the sun raised its crown above the horizon, he set off with his chieftains to see the king. News reached the people. There's a lot of people here, like all famous warriors. I'm not going to list them for you because you may as well forget them. They're not important for what's coming. But there's a long list of warriors here. News reached the warriors that Zol was approaching Iran and that his banner was now visible. The army's commanders went out to meet him, calling down blessings on him and conducting him to the court. Tus said to him, "We are grateful that you have decided to help Iran's nobles and are going to this trouble on our behalf. Thank you, Zol. We all wish you well and are filled with respect for the glory, for the glory of your crown." Zol replied, "When a man has lived for some years, he remembers the advice of his elders, and this is why the heavens deal justly with him. We should not withhold our advice from Kavuz, because he certainly needs it. If he ignores the wisdom of what we suggest, he will live to regret it." Very wise they. With one voice, everyone replied, "We are yours to command, and consider no one else's advice to be of any value compared with yours." It's a very Persian thing to say. I'm just a slave, I'm at your command, I'm at your service. Like, I kiss the ground, you step on, you know. What do you think? I just want to pause for a minute. Zol is entering Kavuz's palace and is going to meet him. But what do you think is going to happen? Will Zol convince Kavuz to put aside his wild, crazy idea of a war against the Deves in Mazandaran? Or will they march to Mazandaran? All of them, all together. And as everyone's predicted, it's going to be a massive disaster. I think the answer is pretty obvious, but I want you to answer anyway. So I can rest my voice for a minute. I think this is my favorite answer so far. He has experience convincing kings. He certainly does, yeah. But I see Kharana in the horizon, yeah. Kharana is coming. Kharana is coming, yeah. You're right. The group entered the court with Zol going ahead and the other nobles with the golden belts following him. When Zol saw Kavuz sitting in state on the throne, he bent his arm submissively across his chest and lowered his head, like bending the arms. He said, "Lord of the world, whose head is lifted higher than those of all the noble chieftains. No one has seen a king like you occupying the throne, or a crown like yours, And the heavens have never heard of good fortune like yours." Stop tar-offing, Zol. We all know what you're here for. "May all your years be filled with victory and prosperity, your heart always filled with knowledge, your head with wisdom." The king made much of him and sat Zol beside him. He asked him about the difficulties of his journey, about news of heroes of his land, and about Rostam. And Zol said to the king, "May you live victoriously and happily. Your good fortune makes all of them prosperous, and they rejoice proudly in your patronage." Then he began to speak respectfully of the matter at hand and said, "My lord, the days pass over us and the heavens revolve over the dark earth. Manusher has left his splendid world, leaving behind treasures and palaces, and we also remember Zab, Nozar, and Kaikobad. These kings with their great armies and commanders never thought of attacking Mazandaran. It is a land of deeds, demons, wizardry, smooth lies, spells, secret sorcery. If you attack them, you won't see again the gold you throw away there, or the men. No one has conquered them. No, not by stealth, or by invasion, or corrupting wealth. Forget the conquest of Mazandaran, my lord. No king has ever thought of such a plan. These chieftains are your subjects, but like you, they are slaves of God in all they do. Don't shed their noble blood, or out of greed plant in the ground ambition's evil seed. because it grows into a tree whose roots and lovely branches nourish loathsome fruits. Zal has gone in with everything he has. He's mentioned kings of the past. He's calling to Kavus's like common sense, saying, look at your warriors. They're worthy people. They're noble. They're loyal to you. It's not worth shedding their blood. It's not worth getting them killed just because out of, a whimsical thought, you want to conquer Mazandaran. And he tried to scare Kai Kavus using the words magic, sorcery, which are very highly prohibited in Iran, depending on who put. It's the kind of prohibited magic. It's the kind of forbidden one. And also he's trying to cover all reasons for Kavus to go, ambition to conquer new lands, the desire for wealth. Like, don't do this, because he compares ambition to a tree that will never stop growing. But Kavus replied, I don't need your love for. Oh. See how it's fading? It's because in this part there's no tea anymore. Kavus replied, I don't need your thoughts on this matter. I have more strength, glory, and wealth than Jamshid or Fereydun. Whoa, watch it, Kavus. Watch it. And I have a greater army and more courage and treasure than Manusher or Kaikobad, who never considered attacking Mazandaran. Watch it, Kavus. The world is ruled by my sharp sword. You drew your sword and conquered the earth. And why should I not show the world what I myself can do? They will submit to me, or I shall force them to do so with the power of my sword. Either I shall empty Mazandaran of inhabitants, or I shall impose heavy taxes on them. Yeah, like the Div are going to be willing to pay you anything. Just saying. They are contemptible in my eyes, sorcerers and soldiers. They are all alike. And you shall hear that the well has been cleared of them. Stay behind then, with Rostam, and be Iran's protector. The world's creator is my ally, and those demons' head are my prey. If you will not help me with this war, at least do not tell me to reconsider my plans. Watch it, Kavus. Do watch it. So he's saying he's just greater than anyone else in this world. Fereydun, Jamshid, Manusher. You spell Kavus with V, like with Uwe, with V. He's just there's no way stopping this guy. And see what he did. It's like, oh yeah, if you don't want to come to war with me, you stay behind and you take care of the whole country. You protect Iran now. I'm gonna go to war. XO, baby. Like, what? No, so Ross, could you clean the bot for me, like the advertisement for me? So yeah, there's no way this kid's gonna stop. Zal could see no sense in the king's words and tries again. You are the king, and we are your slaves. And we spoke only out of our heart's concern for you. Whether you speak justly or unjustly, we must breathe and walk according to your will. I have said the things I should say, the things that were in my heart. A man cannot draw death forth. A man cannot draw death forth from his own body, or seal up the world's eyes with a needle, or escape from necessity by holding back from it. Even the king cannot do these three things. May the shining world favor you, and may you never, never recall my advice. May you not regret your actions, and may your heart be wise and bright with faith. He's sure going to recall your advice, Zal. Then Zol quickly bade the king farewell, his heart clouded with anxiety by this news of the king's departure. When he left the court, the sun and moon were dark before his eyes. The warriors accompanied him. Give said to Zol, I hope God will guide Kavuz, because if God does not, we may as well consider him lost. May greed and necessity and death be far from you, and your enemies be unable to harm you. Wherever we go, we hear only praise of you. Thankless journey for the sake of her hero. And after God, Iran places her hopes in you. In Zol, because he's the only one trustworthy in here. You've made this hard, thankless journey for the sake of her heroes. One by one, they embraced Zol as he set out on his return to Zabolistan. As soon as he had gone, Kavuz gave orders that Tus and Gudars should prepare the baggage and lead the army towards Mazandaran. I mean, one thing's for certain, that Zol is the only person with a snitch of common sense in this world. Anyway, when night turned to day and the warriors set off for Mazandaran, Kavuz entrusted Iran to Milad's keeping, giving him his seal ring and authority and the keys to his treasury. Milad is another character. He said, if enemies appear, then draw the sword of warfare. Rostam and Zol will be your refuge from any evil. Sure thing. On the next day, the din of drums rang out and Gudars and Tus marched at the head of the army. So we were into war again. Woohoo! Aye. Kavuz accompanied them, lending luster to the army's march, and as the sun set, he pitched his camp before Mont Aspruz. This place where Kavuz had decided to rest and sleep was the home of monstrous Div. It was, excitement. It was a place that even elephants feared. Elephants in Iranian folklore and culture are the synonym of bravery and courage. So if even they fear that place, ask yourself why. Kavuz had he doesn't have a good idea. Even his choice for a resting place is completely wrong. It's completely off. He just does not have a sane idea. He does not harbor sense in his head. Azizam. See, this is one of the cases you would use the word Azizam or dear, my dear, in Persian as very ironic, like Azizam. Kavuz had cloth of gold draped over his throne, and because he's taken the throne to war, apparently, and the air was filled with a delicious scent of wine. Sure, why not? Let's get wasted in the land of monstrous Div. What could possibly go wrong? All the chieftains sat before Kavuz, and they spent the night with wine and companionable talk. At dawn they rose and came belted and helmeted before the king, who ordered Give to take 1,000 warriors with maces and to lead the way into Mazandaran. Whoever you see, he said, young or old, separate their souls from their bodies. Excuse me? Wow, I didn't remember Kavuz being this brutal. Yeah, whoever you see, young or old, separate their souls from their bodies. Burn any buildings you come across. Turn day into night, so that these Divs will understand that the world is to be emptied of sorcery. So you set foot on Mazandaran, and what you're gonna do is tell your warriors to go completely nuts and raid everything around them. Give, bound on his belt, left the king's presence and selected a group of men from the army. He marched with them to the borders of Mazandaran and there rained down swords and maces to the inhabitants. What were the poor Jinn doing wrong there? Hello, Night and June, how are you? What were the Jinn doing wrong? He burned and plundered the towns and brought poison instead of healing into the inhabitants' lives. He had come to a city that was like a paradise filled with all manner of pleasure. In every street and building, there were more than 1,000 serving girls, wearing torques and earrings, and even more whose faces were as radiant as the moon, wearing diadems. There was golden treasure scattered everywhere, with here gold coins and there jewels, and there were countless flocks of animals in the surrounding countryside. You would say that it was a veritable paradise. They took news to Cavus of the glory and splendor of this place, saying that Mazanderan was the partner of heaven, that all of this city was adorned like an idolater's temple in Chinese brocade and flowers, that the women there were like hoodies and their faces were like the blossoms of the pomegranate tree. All right, what are hoodies? Hoodies are the inhabitants of paradise, according to Islam, to the Quran and to Islamic religion. They are not virgins; they're just supernatural. They are. Do you see when they poorly explain what the Islamic paradise is like? That they say that multiple virgins are waiting up there for some reason. That is not exactly it. The dwellers of paradise are hoodies and angels, and these hoodies they would be like patties in the sense that they are like spirit-like creatures, supernatural creatures, but certainly, and mythologically speaking, they were not in paradise to, and excuse me, sexually please anyone. They just lived there. They are part of this mystical realm, and this is where they dwell. But they were said to be very beautiful and gentle and caring, but of course they were. It was paradise. It was the good afterlife to look forward to in this passing life. The Iranians had been looting the area for a week before the news reached the king of Mazanderan, and his heart was filled with pain and his head with anxiety. One of the divs of his court was called Sanjay, and his soul and body were lacerated by this news. The king said to him, "Go, as the sun traverses the sky, and go to the white div. Go to Diva Sepid." Because the king of Mazanderan is not a div. Plot twist. The king of Mazanderan is human! Go to the white div. Go to Diva Sepid. Tell him that a huge army led by the Iranian king Cavus has arrived here and is looting Mazanderan. Say that if he does not come to our aid, he will soon see no one left alive here. So kind of what the king of Mazanderan is doing is kind of blackmailing Diva Sepid, which is the white div. Which, by the way, is the most powerful creature in the supernatural realm, excluding Simurgh. Diva Sepid is magnificently powerful. You have no idea of how powerful this creature is. I've spoken about Diva Sepid in my video on an Iranian bestiary, like toss a coin to your Persian. Naeem or Nosoiros, if you could pop the link on the chat, that will be super good. Because if you wish to know more, like a bit more background of Diva Sepid, you can find that on that video alongside with many other beautiful creatures from Iran's folklore. Oh, thank you, Sacerdotisa! Oh, 10 months! That's so cute. Thank you so much. Thank you, No Soy Rose. Hi, I don't know what's gone into Streamlabs. It's not working. The commands are not working. Hello, Mrs. Rock'n'Roll. It doesn't matter. I'm just very glad to have you here. And so yeah, if you want to know a little bit more about Diva Sepid, just on there you can find it. Sanjay, the div, took the warlike king's message to the white div and replied. The white div replies. I'm gonna put like a deep voice if I can. Do not despair of fate. I will come immediately with a mighty army and drive them out of Mazanderan. When night came, a black cloud spread over the army, making the world as dark as an African's face. The earth seemed like a sea of pitch from which all light had gone into hiding. There seemed to be a huge tent of smoke and pitch looming over them, and men's eyes were baffled by the darkness. When night had passed and day came, the eyes of half the men in the Iranian army were darkened, and their leaders' heads were filled with fury against the king. Many men perished because of this, so the eyes were completely black, like entirely. The pupil, the iris, the white part, everything was black, and they could not think of anything else except for how much they hated Kaikavos. And some people died of this hatred. The king was also blinded, and his actions brought evil on his army. The eyes of Kaikavos were completely gone. Their wealth was looted, and his soldiers led into captivity. In his misery, Kavuz said, "A sensible advisor is more valuable than treasure." The Iranians suffered in this way for a week, completely submerged in darkness, no light, not being able to see, and just harboring this loathing sentiment within you. Oh, such is the power of Divasapid. On the 8th day, Divasapid roared. Oh, thank you so much, Serapis. You are Serapis. You got a new subscription. Thank you for gifting Serapis a new subscription. You're the best. You're the best, Sacerdotisa. You are the best. My priestess, my partner in crime. Divasapid roared. Kavus, you are like a willow, fruitless, unafraid. And you once thought your army could invade Mazanderan, and that your strength is like a maddened mammoth when you choose to strike. Since you have occupied the Iranian throne, wisdom has deserted you. Good scent has flown. Here is the end of everything you sought. Here is the punishment for which you fought. I love Divasapid, and I love the way he speaks. Then Divasapid chose 12,000 Divs armed with daggers and set them to guard the Iranians, filling their chieftain's mind with grief. The demons fed them on a handful of bran, so that their days were filled with suffering. Bliss team, no, his name is Div-e-Sepid, which means white div. But yeah, Iblis. This is not exactly. Possibly he knows Iblis. It's pretty sure they know each other, but they have no. Iblis would be his boss, his supervisor, if there's a rank to give to Iblis. So that their days were filled with suffering, and took all the king's treasures, including his crown set with rubies and turquoises, and gave them to Mazanderan's army commander, Arzang. Divasapid said to Arzang, "Tell the king that he need talk no more about Ahriman. The Iranian king and his army will never look on the bright sun and moon again. I have not killed them, but only so that they will know how pain differs from pleasure. They will die slowly, groaning in despair, and no one will pay any attention to their complaints." When Arzang heard this message, he set off for the king of Mazanderan, taking the Iranian army as prisoners and their treasures and horses, with fine trappings and plunder. Then, sick at heart, Kavuz sent a warrior to go as quickly as a flying bird or a wind-borne smoke to Zal and Rostam in Zabolistan. Obviously. And to them, he said, "Fortune has dealt me a heavy blow, and thus has deemed my throne and crown. The turning heavens have given my wealth and my army of famous warriors, as splendid and as roses in springtime, to the Divs. The wind you said would come has borne everything away. Now my eyes are darkened and my fortunes are confused. My royal head is bowed with weariness, wounded and in Ahriman's clutches. My wretched body gives up its soul. When I remember the advice you gave me, cold sighs rise up from within me. I did not act wisely. You think? I did not act wisely. I did not follow your advice, and my lack of wisdom has brought disaster on me. If you do not come to my help now, all that we have gained will be lost. We? Excuse me, Azizam, what did you exactly win apart from blindness? We. Whatever. The messenger told Zal all he knew and all he had seen and heard. Zal clawed at his skin in grief, but he said nothing, either to friends or to enemies. In his heart, he saw clearly the evils that Qaboos was suffering far away. He said to Rostam, "We must neither eat nor drink nor delight in our sovereignty because the king of the world has been snared by Ahriman, and disaster has come to the Iranian army. You must saddle Rash and grasp your sword for vengeance. Fate has brought you up for this day. In this battle against Ahriman, you must not rest or draw breath. Cover your chest with your tiger skin and drive all thoughts of sleep from your mind. What man who has seen your lands can feel easy in his soul? If you fight against the sea, it is turned to blood. And at the sound of your voice, mountains crumble to the plains." Yes, because he does know how to properly scream. Arzang and Dibasapid must have no hope of escaping from you. Your heavy mace must smite the neck of the king of Mazandaran and shatter it to pieces. Zal is angry. Rostam replied, "The way is long. How shall I go without soldiers to accompany me?" Zal replied, "There are 2 ways there from this kingdom, and both are filled with difficulties and danger. One is the way that Qaboos took. The other lies through the mountains and will take 2 weeks. You will meet with lions and thieves and darkness, and your eyes will be bewildered by what they see. If you take the shorter way, you will come on monstrous things, and may God come to your aid if this happens. It is a hard way, but set Rash along it, and you will survive its perils. In the dark night, until daybreak, I shall pray to God that I shall see your shoulders and chest again, and your sword and mace in your hand. And if God wills that a deep turn your days to darkness, can any man avert this from you? What comes to us must be endured. No one can stay in this world forever, and even if he remains here for a long time, he's finally summoned to another place. Like the kings in the past, you remember that they chose when they stopped living? If a man leaves behind him a noble reputation, he should not despair when he has to depart." Rostam replied to his father, "I have bound my bells on in readiness to obey you. The great warriors of the past of the past did not choose to walk into hell, and those who were not tired of life did not choose to face revenging legends. But I am prepared for whatever I encounter, and I ask for no ally but God. I shall sacrifice my body and soul for the King of Kings and smash these sorcerers and their talismans. Yes, Azizam. I shall rescue the Iranians who are still living, and I will leave neither Arzang nor Divasapid nor Sanjay, no one alive. I swear by the one God who has created the world that Rostam will not dismount from Raksh until he has bound Arzang's arms in a rock-like knot and placed a yoke on his shoulders, and Raksh has trampled Kulak's head and brains beneath his hooves." Someone's ready! Someone's ready to tango! Oh my god, Rostam is so ready. Jarana total. Total jarana. Zal embraced Rostam and invoked many blessings on his head, and Rostam, with his cheeks flushed and his heart firm in his chest, mounted Raksh. Rudabe, Rostam's mama, the mom, Azizam, Rudabe came to her son, her face wet with tears, and Zal too wept bitterly over him. They're crying because, his son, even he's super prepared because he was born ready, he's still going to face multiple dangers. So, as a parent, you express your preoccupations. They bid Rostam farewell, not knowing whether they would ever see him again. So passes the world, and a wise man knows of its passage, and with every day that goes by, your body becomes more free of the earth's evil. And this is where we're going to stop for today. Thank you so much for joining me. This was such a fun bit. I cannot wait to keep on reading. This was such a cool skept. I really like it. I do. I really enjoyed this one. I did not remember it. Like, I knew they marched onto war, but I don't remember the conversations or anything. And I really like it. Oh, I certainly enjoy that so much. I'm really happy that you liked it as well, Ross. And this is as far as we are going to go. I was putting my bookmark on my book. Thank you so much, Butcher, for tuning in with me. Thank you so much for keep on coming to these beautiful live streams, because it's not that I make them beautiful, but it is that I do love the Book of Kings. As I say in the description of the stream, it is the Book of Kings, and for me it is the king of all books. So thank you so much, Butcher. Thank you to my patrons for sponsoring me and making this a reality, especially to those of Tir Murshid and Ashdod. Thank you so much for being here, for your company, for your comments. Thank you so much for everyone's gifted subscription. Super cool. I can't wait for the movie. If only, Azizam, if only, Butcher, we are still trying to get a Harine Dastan, like the film they made about Zahag. No soy Ros, sacerdotisa. We need to work on that. I so want to watch it. Like, we need to. We need to do something. Hope you'll have a good rest of your day. Exactly. By the way, Butcher, on Thursday, I'm going to change the time because I need to do something earlier. So probably we'll start around 6, 6:15. But don't worry, I'll post it on social media. Thank you so much for tuning in with me. And as I always say to you, which I love saying to you, create, explore, and have a lot of fun. Until we see each other next time, I say, Khuda Hafiz.